everyone. Welcome back with another episode of A Trip to the Fridge with Mike's MMA Picks. So glad to have you here. This is one of the strangest UFC newsworthy days we've had in a long time. So many things to unpack here. A lot of stuff went down. Where do we start? Start? My heart goes out to Mateusz Gamrot, who is now without a fight. Granted, he was the backup fighter for Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira. We saw that fight get pulled out from under us. And who steps in? No one other than Alex Volkanovski. Volkanovski takes this fight without a training camp. Granted, of course, he keeps himself in phenomenal shape for a lightweight title fight on short notice in Abu Dhabi. Tall task, but if there's anybody who can pull this off, it would be the pound for pound greatest fighter on planet Earth, and that is Alex Volkanovski. If you are inclined to suggest another human being who walks the face of planet Earth, you can feel free to jot that down in the comment section. So Oliveira is injured, right? Gamrot, who was supposed to be the backup fighter, has the rug pulled out from under him, and in steps Alex Volkanovski, who's supposed to fight Topuria at UFC 297. I believe that's in January. I don't think contracts have been signed for that bout. But take a look at the fridge that I put together here. You see all of the matchups that are unfolding. You can even see Conor McGregor on that fridge. He doesn't have a fight booked, but as of January 1st, 2024, USADA is no longer going to be in charge of testing fighters. We saw that unfold in just a few short hours ago. It was unveiled that Conor McGregor has entered the testing pool, but fighters are supposed to have a 6-month window that they have to wait before they can get a fight in. And it seems like what may have happened is McGregor might have pushed the envelope here, and who calls the shots? That's what I ask. It's incredible how much pull he has in the game these days, and he hasn't competed inside of the octagon in quite some time, hasn't seen a victory since his last fight over Donald Cerrone. We've got a few folks in the comments section here right off the bat. Thank God Gamrot's not in the picture here. Yeah, well, it's funny, when I was composing images to put on the fridge, you notice I did leave Gamrot off there. It's pretty shocking. I know if you look at his tweets recently, you see that he was all set to go to Abu Dhabi and be the backup fighter there. So that's one fight that got pulled out from under us. Now, Alex Volkanovski, short notice. Is he prepared to go 25 minutes against Makhachev again? Wow. Can he pull it off? Then you have the other big time fight that we saw get announced today was, number one, Paulo Costa pulls out of his fight against Khamzat Chimaev. And who steps in? Kamaru Usman on short notice. That's only a 3-round fight, but now he has to travel across the globe, and he must see something in this matchup where he decides to go take this fight. He also sees Leon Edwards and Colby Covington matched up, and then Bilal Muhammad sneaking in the background too. So he wants to stay active, and he might have seen the success that Gilbert Burns had against Khamzat Chimaev. Thinks he can attain the same success, but we must mention that this is up a weight class. This is at 185 pounds. That's I see James in the chat here. He says, are Usman's knees a factor? Leon exploited that weakness. And yes, I do believe that is a major factor here. Also, he's starting to slow down in his late 30s. You look at the line here too, the betting lines on these fights. I believe I saw Volkanovski at plus 210 or so. And then in the other fight, Chimaev has already been blown out to minus 330 or so as a favorite. Now, can Kamaru Usman utilize his wrestling and his gas tank to punish Chimaev? That's going to be a challenge here, man. Up at middleweight, he's a significant underdog here, Usman, that is. But it wasn't that long ago when folks were proclaiming that Kamaru Usman was the greatest of them all. So that's interesting. Now, let's see. We got Patrick says things are going according to plan. Imagine they book Holloway versus Topuria now. Yes. Oh my goodness gracious, that would be something else. And you're right. Things seem to be falling into place. And bummed now that we have to wait for Volk Topuria. Granted, it was supposed to take place in January, and he said that he's okay with having a quick turnaround or having an 8-week or so camp before taking another fight. That'll be interesting. So then we have Val Woodburn. What are the chances he ends up on my fridge, and how the hell did he get here? I asked that of you. Look up at the top of the fridge there. You have Magomed Ankalaev with his hands over his head. That was, I believe, taken after his controversial draw against Jan Blachowicz, and we haven't seen him fight since. He was supposed to take on Johnny Walker, and that was a fight where you have Magomed Ankalaev taking on a fight that is high risk, low reward. How does that get him closer to a title shot? The guy just had a title shot, won the fight by most accounts, and ends up with the draw. Then now he's fighting Val Woodburn, who is a very explosive fighter. I know Nickel took him out of there real quick, but he does possess some danger here. He's a banger. Granted, he's not necessarily a 205-pound fighter, but here he is. What the heck is going on out there? And then we have the USADA situation. We have to talk about that also, and how that really changes the landscape. I've seen a number of fighters actually tweet recently that is it basically open season now to break out the pharmaceuticals for the 2024 calendar year? How are the UFC going to handle this moving forward? Do they have their own testing protocol? What is the game plan moving forward? They're going to have to announce something very soon, because the year is 2024 is right around the corner, and USADA has already come out and mentioned that McGregor was the issue. That granted, he's calling his own shots. Ryan says, go get them gas station pills. Your tainted supplements are not going to be an issue anymore. It seems like there's so many variables now. I mean, of course, you hear about fighters who could potentially have been flying under the radar. You've heard, I believe it was Marlon Vera saying, if you had 20 grand, and a good doctor, you can get through the system unscathed. Now, how are they going to handle this? I mean, everybody remembers when TRT was the TRT exemptions. You remember that? Where Alistair Overeem and Vitor Belfort, and you even think back to Dan Henderson went on his run after he found the fountain of youth. Some pretty amazing things that are on the horizon here. Now, James, you're asking thoughts on the short notice nature of these bouts. Do you stay away from them as a bettor? I ask not as a bettor myself, but as a fan of the show. Thank you. That's a really good question. The short notice situation does change the complexion of the fights here. There will likely be a sense of urgency in a number of these bouts. And also, you don't have a full training camp to game plan for each of these fighters' strengths. I mean, you look at Khamzat Chimaev was supposed to fight Paulo Costa, and Paulo Costa is not a wrestler. He's a striker, and now he has Usman, who's going to look to try to ground and grind out Chimaev. I originally, if this line was, in the minus 150s, 180s, I would be all over Chimaev. But now, since he's blown out to minus 300 or so, I think that even though it's in Abu Dhabi and it's up a weight class, Kamaru Usman, I mean, he has a path here. I mean, I'm going to be picking Chimaev to get the job done, but I'm not going to go out of my way to play over minus 300 on a Chimaev there. And then on the other side of the fight, the short notice nature for Ankalaev, I think this is a dangerous fight. Woodburn, what does he have to lose? He's going to go out there and try and go for the kill. We've seen Iwan Kudalaba try to go for the kill against Ankalaev in the past and how that worked out for him. But the UFC isn't doing Magomed Ankalaev any favors here. Who's next? VADA for the UFC anti-doping program? That's a great question. I don't know what they're going to end up doing, but somebody has to make a decision soon because you can't. Are we in uncharted waters here, or are we going back to the olden days where folks were doing things behind the scenes and under the table? And I mean, will Dillashaw come back here? I mean, I know his shoulder is getting worked on. Brock Lesnar 2024 return. Could you imagine that? Man, I guess you could say there's an even playing field because everyone can juice equally. But then you get these superhumans, and you also have to worry about the danger that the human body can only take so much punishment. And if these fighters are coming in juiced to the gills, that's a potential disaster. But hopefully, I'm not a fan of jumping to conclusions. Hopefully, the UFC has a plan in place to protect the fighters and the integrity of the sport, because this is a sport I love very close to my heart. Been following it since the early 1990s and looking forward to all of these matchups. So big news day today. We had the USADA issue. That's a game changer, and especially how McGregor was able to strong arm everybody pretty much. It sounds like that's what took place. And even in that scathing letter that was put out by USADA, they specifically mentioned McGregor in there. How often do they mention one fighter and not just blanket everybody? That was very odd for me to read. So you had the USADA situation. You have Michael Chandler now. Where does he fit in this? How come we don't have an announcement yet of a fight booked? Are we going to wait until 2024? And also the Paulo Costa situation. He went to Abu Dhabi with this elbow surgery, coming off of elbow surgery, and now he gets to postpone his fight or his ability to compete. He's going to have to recover. I believe he has a second and third elbow surgery scheduled in the near future. So that's going to drag things out to 2024. And he's a fighter who, go back and watch how he looks on the scales in his previous matchups. And he's been able to accomplish these tasks under the USADA umbrella. My mind can only imagine what he'll look like in 2024 with the help of his secret juice. So two superhumans fighting each other sounds pretty awesome. Yeah, it does to a certain extent. As long as I'm not the one competing inside of the octagon against the other superhuman. That's the challenge. Are there panthers in Thailand? I have a feeling folks may be testing the limits in the near future. That was for another stream. Interesting. I thought you were talking about the Carolina Panthers for a second there. Usman is a dead man walking. He's walking into enemy territory. He's going to be in Abu Dhabi. He's going to be up a weight class against someone who has had an entire year away from the octagon to bulk up to 185 pounds. And man, I I'm looking forward to watching that unfold. And I haven't been extremely high on Kamaru Usman. In fact, you watch his last two performances, especially the most recent one against Leon. He did not look good. It seemed like he not only is the damage starting to take its toll, but you have to also question the mental side of things too, coming off of back-to-back losses. And he was beaten pretty soundly the last time out. I know the head kick, he was dominating that fight early in the first iteration of that bout, but did not look great. Now he's headed to Abu Dhabi to take on a monster. And also, we must mention the cojones of Alex Volkanovski to be able to. He wants this, man. He wants to right a wrong here, and he performed admirably up a weight class against Makhachev last time out. So I am really looking forward to that fight. Looking forward to all these fights. So we've got a very bright future ahead. And thank you, everybody, for hopping on board for episode 2 of A Trip to the Fridge with Mike's MMA Picks. I appreciate you tuning in. It's a lot of fun. I love doing these where we're able to break down some of the news stories of the day, of the week, and talk about some future matchups. And by the way, I believe we're only 10 or so days away from the UFC 294 card. And still a few more months left in the year. So enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy UFC Vegas 81 this weekend. And remember to go get what's yours. Have a fantastic day. Take care, guys.